Holy smokes, are we about to enter a dreaded recession in the USA? Well, the Sahm Rule was triggered last Friday after a surprise uptick in the US unemployment rate, sending panic across markets. This very accurate indicator alarmed economists and analysts, since this is usually triggered once an economy is already in a recession. Is there no hope? Well, stick with me for the next few minutes. Let's find out together. Let's dive in and try to understand what's going on here. The Sahm Rule is now the talk of the town. Why? Well, fear is usually what generates the most buzz. A war, a big accident, a recession's always going to grab headlines. But before we lose our heads, we need to understand what's going on. The best way to do it is by going back to the basics. Have you ever wondered what events will constitute a recession? Now, according to a publication from the International Monetary Fund, it is sustained periods when economic output falls and unemployment rises. This makes sense, since lower output from businesses would mean less demand for workers. And when people lose their jobs, their spending also decreases. Pretty hard to buy stuff if you don't have any money, right? This creates a negative feedback loop where reduced spending leads to lower business revenues, which in turn can lead to more layoffs and further declines in economic output. Most analysts and economists have a pretty practical definition of a recession. A recession is called when a country's gross domestic product, or GDP, decreases for 2 consecutive quarters. However, we don't really do it like that anymore, because that really means that the US had a recession in early 2022, but nobody counted it as a recession because we don't count it like that anymore. Because a focus on GDP alone, they argue, is too narrow, and some analysts would like to look at other measures to confirm if an economy is really in a recession. By the way, US economy grew 2.6% GDP last quarter. Feels kind of harder to talk about recessions already. This brings us to the next question. The Sahm Rule, what the heck is it? For one, it has nothing to do with Sam Bankman-Fried or any of that crazy bullshit, okay? Different Sam, okay? The Sahm Rule, spelled S-A-H-M, was created by Claudia Sahm, a former Federal Reserve official. I know we should not really believe everything the Fed said or anyone who works at the Fed says, but to be fair, Claudia has a PhD in economics and a BA in economics and political science. She has also held posts in different economic bodies, including the Federal Reserve. This makes her one of the few who know what actually makes an economy tick. Now, the Sahm Rule is triggered when the unemployment rate's 3-month moving average moves 50 basis points above its 12-month low. The Sahm Rule is recognized for its simplicity and for its accuracy. It uses a single data series, which is the national unemployment rate, which is published monthly, making it very straightforward and very easy for, well, investors and the broader market to try to understand. And unlike other recession indicators that may rely on more complex statistical modeling with multiple inputs and all kinds of hocus pocus on top, the Sahm Rule's reliance on unemployment data makes it a little more accessible. Now, before I break down the implications of what this all could mean, I wanted to let you know real quick about the Wealth Mastery newsletter. This is your weekly guide to the cryptocurrency markets. Our readers love it, and I'm sure you will too. And here's why: because every week, my team of researchers and I are helping you not just to stay ahead of the curve, but also to save your time by finding you the latest and greatest insights on altcoins, meme coins, decentralized finance, airdrops, charts, and much, much more. You can join our 135,000 plus weekly readers for free. Link in the description or the pinned comment over on X. So, the Sahm Rule, it triggered the alarm last Friday, with the moving average rising 53 basis points above its lowest point in the past year. This is according to the real-time Sahm Rule recession indicator from the St. Louis Federal Reserve. For the last economic report, the U.S. economy added 114,000 jobs in July, which missed economist estimates of 175,000. While the unemployment rate, which was forecast to stay flat, rose to 4.3% from the expected staying flat of 4.1%. Now, if you remember our definition of a recession, a lower employment rate can affect purchasing power, which will have a negative feedback loop on business revenues. So this could be worrying. But how accurate is this measure actually? Is this a sign that we're going to have a recession? And if so, is it going to be comparable to the 2008 global financial crisis, which everyone's big fear, right? Imagine having a crystal ball that predicts recessions with 100% accuracy. That would be great. That would be great. Look, some are going to say that that is the Sahm Rule. and that every time it flashes a warning, you better have a plan to survive economic turmoil. Since 1953, not including the warning last week, the Sahm Rule has flashed 11 times. In 10 out of the 11 times, the economy was already balls deep in a recession. Wait, Lark, you said it has 100% accuracy. You messed up the math, didn't you? Well, math is good. You see, in 1959, the warning was given. However, the economy was still doing fine. The recession, though, did happen 5 months later. It flashed a bit early that time. The recession of 1960 1961 lasted for 10 months. So instead of being a lagging indicator, it actually became a leading indicator, which during that time predicted a future event. But wait. Maybe this is the first time it's going to fail. For one, the US GDP is doing good, right? Economic output rose in the first quarter of 2024 by 1.4%. It rose by 2.8% in the second quarter. Come on, man. What's that? If we're going to stick again to that textbook definition of a recession, then the indicator is now giving a false signal, which can happen with indicators, okay? Indicators are not infallible. But we also have to remember that there was a time when the Sahm Rule predicted a recession 5 months prior. And of course, we need to look for confluence. The more there are, the more accurate a prediction can get. Do you remember the last time the Fed raised interest rates? Well, let's talk about it because it was done in July last year when the benchmark rate was brought to its current level of 5.5%. Why am I saying this? Because a recession usually starts 6 to 18 months after the last Fed rate hike. You see, it takes a while before the economy contracts because of economic restrictions. So if we take this knowledge and the Sahm Rule being a leading indicator, then we're looking at a recession potentially by the end of the year. Let's not forget about the dreaded yield curve, which is currently uninverting. When it inverts, it means that short-term treasury interest rates are higher than long-term ones. It's like a flashing neon sign warning of a potential recessionary environment happening. That happened back in 2022. Historically, been a pretty reliable predictor, except this time it crossed under, but no recession came, or it technically did, but no one counted it as a recession. This happened in the first half of 2022, and we technically had 2 quarters of negative growth. But it often does signal economic trouble ahead, especially when it uninverts. Right? So if the yield curve currently inverted, or it's currently in uninverting, it's another piece of the puzzle suggesting we might be headed towards a downturn. And when it inverts and then returns to a normal shape, it often signals shit's about to get real. On the flip side, some are not really convinced, and surprisingly, one of the people saying that the Sahm Rule might be wrong this time is Claudia Sahm herself. Interesting. In an interview, she said, "I'm not concerned that at this moment we're in a recession. No one should be in panic mode today, though it appears that some might be." She also noted that household income is still growing. Consumer spending and business investment remain resilient, which could also measure how the economy is actually doing. She also said that immigration might be affecting the accuracy of the Sahm Rule in predicting recession. Now, this is very interesting. The recent increase in unemployment rates could be influenced by a surge of illegal immigrants. Okay. Net immigration reached 3.3 million last year compared to an annual average of 900,000 from 2010 to 2019. A robust economy, of course, attracts more legal immigrants, but also a lot of illegal immigrants, which can initially push up the unemployment rates, but ultimately support economic growth by filling demand in labor markets. Not all bad, right? So, back to the original question. Is there hope, or is some economic hardship on the horizon? Truth be told, the answer will depend on who you ask. Wish I had a totally this is going to be the answer. Nobody knows. People way smarter than me don't know. I'm just a dude making videos on YouTube. I hope it's useful information for you, but I don't know either. Being an election year, government officials might say everything's fine. We're going to have a soft landing, et cetera, et cetera. But if you ask those who swear by indicators who have done well in the past, then chances are you're going to get an ominous answer. Too many indicators are flashing. Sandler-Piper, the Sahm Rule, the inverted yield curve, slowdown in manufacturing, rising unemployment, all this stuff, which frankly tells us that nobody really knows for certain. This type of news intrigues us because obviously we have skin in the game, right? If the market implodes, then our portfolios go down with it. However, instead of guessing which prediction might come true, always be ready for the worst case scenario. For me, recession is bad, but of course it also presents opportunities. And this reminds me of the story about John Templeton. When the war began in Europe in 1939, he bought 100 shares each in 104 companies, selling at $1 per share or less. Only 4 companies failed, and the rest gave him massive profits. So instead of giving into the fear, he took advantage of the discounts. You got to have money to do that. Okay. Got to have money on the sidelines to do that. So make sure you are taking profits when you're able to and stacking up cash for the inevitable recession, right? You have to keep some capital ready in case your chosen stocks or your chosen crypto coins trade at low prices. Okay. Something I messed up on the recent dip. And if a recession doesn't happen, great. But if it does, you're ready. Thanks for watching.